When it comes to NBA players in the 21st century, more and more often they're getting involved in the media side of basketball. And now in 2023, it seems like every player has a podcast, a vlog, or even a YouTube channel. And one of the more controversial former players is indeed Gilbert Arenas, who every 2 to 4 months will go viral with some god-awful take. In today's video, Gilbert is back yet again, this time debating Jordan versus LeBron James and who's the GOAT of the NBA.
So I want to ask you, how big of a deal is LeBron surpassing Kareem as the NBA's all-time leading scorer?
How big of it?
It seems like it was talked about a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of momentum.
No. That's what makes it all funny. This has been for 40 years, and when LeBron James beats it, we just pretend that it's like that it wasn't standing for 40 years, and y'all didn't say no one was gonna ever do it, and someone did, and you're not gonna give him the flowers that he deserves. Are you kidding me? You're gonna pretend that they should have won the game. That game.
So stopping Gilbert right there off the bat, he has a very distorted view of reality and what actually happened when LeBron broke Kareem's record. When that happened, every NBA fan acknowledged that feat was simply amazing in terms of longevity and sustained greatness. Putting that aside, LeBron passing Kareem, in my personal opinion, and a lot of other fans' opinion, did not make him the greatest player in NBA history. Both those things can be true at the same time. LeBron's record is highly impressive, but also it does not make him the greatest player in NBA history. We're not downplaying LeBron's accomplishment, and also we're not a prisoner of the moment that lacks historical context. And when it comes to Jordan versus LeBron James, to any fan they can see, there's a lengthy gap in accolades and accomplishments in these two players. And I do want to highlight one thing Gilbert said. At the very end of that clip, he said, F winning, F that game. I want you guys to remember that going forward in this video, because that one nugget is a pretty good summary of Gilbert, his view of basketball, and all-time rankings.
That was supposed to be a unicorn, right? By these two. The best point guard ever.
Thank you.
The best player ever.
Until LeBron. Yeah.
Right? And then he gets here, and then you want to pretend, you're going to pretend that he's not better than just the one player you said. He caught both players, then he caught an extra who's leading everybody in scoring. He surpassed him. And then you want to get to, well, he played on different teams. He got the load, man. He played then you want to throw all this extra shit in. No, f all that. F all that. What does he have to do to say he's the best?
Now, stopping Gilbert right there in that clip, the overemphasis on total stats and longevity is pretty shocking. As using that logic Gilbert has, when it comes to LeBron James passing Kareem, that overall feat should not be the lone reason LeBron James hops Jordan. As to add some context, Kareem in '89 had the all-time scoring record, 6 championships, and 6 MVPs. With Kareem having that record still, he was not greater or better than Jordan. And when it comes to LeBron James having less titles, less MVPs than both Jordan and Kareem, the logic for Gilbert simply does not hold up. As for the past 10 years, Gilbert Arenas has constantly said Michael Jordan is greater than Kareem. Also, one thing I do want to address is Gilbert downplaying LeBron James leaving teams numerous times. That's a big factor of LeBron James' career and a big reason he has 4 championships, playing with D. Wade, Chris Bosh, Kyrie and Love, and AD and Russ. At the very least, he's had 2 super teams, and many would argue he's had 3. When it comes to an all-time debate looking at Jordan versus LeBron, or any great player, things like that 100% matter. For example, looking at Kevin Durant, imagine totally ignoring him going to Golden State and joining a super team. That essentially is what Gilbert is doing for LeBron James. Because once again, how you win championships does matter. For Jordan, KD, LeBron, and any player in NBA history. And the last thing I do want to address is Gilbert's question at the very end, asking the audience, what does LeBron have to do to pass Jordan all time and be the best player? Well, for a start, he can get 2 more championships, 2 more Finals MVPs, 1 more MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year, 4 more All-Defensive teams, and 9 scoring titles.
If you say Michael Jordan's the best and he's the best because of this scoring shit, and I surpass it, I don't give a fuck what you talk about no more. I don't care what you're talking about no more. Your invisible, statistics. He would have played all 5 years, and I don't give a fuck about none of that, right? This was what I was supposed to be. I did that, and then this is just in case you want to throw him in front of me. I'm going to top that shit too. That argument is over. Oh, he did it in 6 years. I don't care. Well, he only played, so I don't give a fuck. He played 82 games for 9. I don't give a shit, right? There's no, what? Oh, if he wins 1 more chip, what the fuck does the chip have to do with the best player?
So, stopping that clip right there up to this point, that is probably Gilbert's worst take, which is saying something. As when it comes to Jordan, contrary to Gilbert's belief, why we call him the GOAT is not because of his scoring. It's the combination of accolades, his play, his skill, his talent, the competition he faced, how good he was in the NBA Finals, never choking, winning 3 championships straight, coming back, winning 3 more, and then calling it quits. Trying to boil Jordan down to some stats or total numbers is completely disingenuous. And for Gilbert, I do find it pretty ironic he tells Jordan fans, F your invisible statistics. The irony of Gilbert trying to say that when his own argument for LeBron James is based 95% on LeBron's total stats and 1 scoring record. The irony in both those statements is pretty mind-blowing. And I do want to make one thing known. The title of this video I'm reacting to is called Why LeBron James is Officially the GOAT, coming from a Jordan fan. Gilbert Arenas is not a Jordan fan. I've been on YouTube for close to 3 years, and not once has Gilbert in that time period said Jordan is greater than LeBron. Back in 2019, 2020, all the way till now. So this fake argument in the over disguise that, yeah, I'm a Jordan guy, so my opinion really matters. It's a BS tactic, it's not slick, and it shows Gilbert his arguments are so flimsy he has to pretend he's a Jordan guy to further validate him putting LeBron number 1. And speaking from a Jordan fan's perspective, if Gilbert actually was an MJ fan, would he dismiss his 6 championships, call his stats invisible, and toss aside valid arguments for Jordan being greater? And as you saw at the end of that clip, Gilbert once again is downplaying winning and getting championships. As every knowledgeable fan knows, winning titles has an immense impact on your legacy and your all-time standing. Looking at last year's Steph Curry, winning his 4th championship vaulted him in a top 10 all-time status. For LeBron in 2016, winning that ring put him in the GOAT debate. And Giannis in 2021, winning that championship validated him as the best player in the world. Acting like rings and championships don't have a huge impact is highly disingenuous and a common LeBron fan tactic.
Maybach, 1 of 1. That's Jordan. 1 of 1. Did it elegant. Perfect. He was the face of just elegance all the way around, how he moved, how he did it. LeBron, he was we'll say a Hummer truck. Right? And you threw all this bulletproof, undestructible shit on it, and he's moved. And you might not like the way he has done it, but he still surpassed the things that you said he couldn't do or he wouldn't do.
Now, for the first time in this video, me and Gilbert finally have some common ground, as Jordan, of course, was a 1 of 1 talent, and LeBron James has surpassed all comparisons, all pre-draft comps, and all the hype leading to the 03 draft. I think every NBA fan can agree on that statement. But with that being said, LeBron surpassing expectations does not mean he has surpassed Jordan. And being second all-time by no means is a slight or a disappointment for LeBron James. And I think Gilbert in this clip, once again, is pretty foolish, acting like both these things can't be true at the same time.
If Jordan had Kareem's scoring title, right? If Jordan had John Stockton's assist record, if Jordan had, Bill's Russell rings, I get it. But Jordan's not number one in any of the categories.
This right here is the most brain-dead take I have ever seen. And coming from a former player, how are you guys not smarter than this? Michael Jordan not once in his career was first all-time in a total stat category. And despite that, even Gilbert himself said Jordan was the GOAT. He once again is contradicting his own logic and his past statements. And looking at total all-time stats, John Stockton being first in assist does not make him better or greater than Magic Johnson. And Wilt Chamberlain being first in rebounds does not make him the best center or the best rebounder. And I want to hammer it home once again, using Gilbert's logic in 2023, Michael Jordan was never the greatest player in NBA history for the simple fact he was never number one in a total stat category. My problem with Gilbert and people like him who use his arguments is the constant shifting of the goalpost, and it's pretty clear he's making up new criteria as the days go on. And like I said before, Gilbert Arenas never was saying Kareem was the best player in NBA history while having the scoring record 6 MVPs and 6 championships. And funny enough, Gilbert himself has been on record saying he does not rank players from pre-1990 because, quote, the 1980s era was complete trash. We'll dive into that later, but I do think it's pretty funny Gilbert, depending on the debate, he'll give respect to the 80s or clown them and downplay the era.
Stop. This is what happens. Because I don't think they understand when it come out. When you say, yeah, he's not a better scorer than Jordan. But he's first. Like, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think you understand what you're saying. If Jordan was a scorer first and LeBron is a passer first, and the passer first has more points than the scorer first, just let it go, because you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think they understand the concept of what they're saying.
Have you ever known someone who thinks they're making a very deep point, they're exposing some type of logic, and they're really breaking through and destroying someone else's argument? That is Gilbert Arenas in this clip, but contrary to his belief, he's making a fool of himself and not Jordan fans. As a fundamental misunderstanding, what makes a great score is not total points. And I think most fans would agree Jordan is a better scorer than LeBron James. And even LeBron fans, I'd say, agree with that statement. As looking at total stats, which Gilbert all of a sudden loves, all-time scoring-wise, Karl Malone has more points than Kobe and Jordan. According to Gilbert, Karl Malone is a better scorer than both those guys. Paul Pierce has more all-time points than Steph Curry. And Elvin Hayes, till this day, has more points than Kevin Durant. I use those three comparisons for one reason only, to expose how stupid and idiotic total stats are. As looking at Jordan, compared to LeBron James, he averages more points in the playoffs, in the finals, has more 30-point games, 40-point games, 50-point games, and 60-point games. Looking at the playoffs, he has more total series, averaging above 40 points, more playoff runs averaging 30, as well as 35, and the highest scoring series in a finals all time. And to nail the point home, Jordan for his career, the lowest he scored in a series was 26.6 points. For LeBron James, looking at his playoff resume, 16 different times in a series, he scored under 26.6 which was MJ's lowest. I could go on and on and on, bore you with stats, context, just numbers for days proving Jordan is a better scorer than LeBron James.
That I heard someone say about, legacy. The 80s basketball, right? It was tougher. Shut up. Let it go. 80s cannot compete with 90s, 2000s, and now. It is a pointless argument. Bill and Beer cannot play basketball today, right? His defense does not work today.
So stopping that clip right there, we've seen some pretty bad takes throughout this video, but this last one just might be the worst, as it all comes together with Gilbert finally disrespecting and downplaying the 1980s, which once again I do find funny because earlier he was lauding Kareem as the NBA's all-time leading scorer and why that record was so important. But now conveniently the 1980s doesn't count, it wasn't real basketball, and players from that era could not play today. Isn't it funny how Gilbert Arenas, depending on the debate, will move the goalpost, change the argument, and downplay certain eras? And looking at his actual point, it's a pretty trash argument. As the 1980s, some of those players played in the 90s and even the 2000s. And Gilbert's trump card to kill the old head NBA fans was saying Bill Laimbeer wouldn't play in today's league. Bill Laimbeer was not a great player even in his own era. And for the Pistons, he wasn't a top 4 defensive player on their own team. And logically thinking, on December 31st, 1989, at 11:59 p.m., did all the players suddenly forget how to play basketball? Because according to Gilbert, any player who played in the 80s could not from the 90s or the 2000s. But looking at history, players in the 80s 100% could play in the 90s and even the 2000s. As Jordan, Magic, Dominique, Drexler, Karl Malone, Barkley, Hakeem, Ewing, Pippen, Rodman, Mullen, and Reggie all played in the 80s as well as the 90s. And looking at some of those guys, actually, they played in 3 different decades. And for Jordan in 02, averaged 22 points per game in the slowest paced era. For John Stockton, at age 39, averaged 13 points and 8 assists. And Karl Malone also averaged 22 points in 02. And last but not least, you have Reggie Miller, who averaged 24 points in the 2000 playoffs en route to making the finals. The overall notion that certain players who played the 80s couldn't play in different eras is simply flawed by looking at the players themselves and how they translated to other decades. And for Gilbert, once again, he is a walking contradiction, as he is on record saying players back then were more fundamentally sound, and someone like Giannis in today's league has no skill. Think about that. The best player in 2023, quote unquote, has no skill, but players from back then somehow couldn't survive in today's league. Even worse, Gilbert says Jokic isn't better than Wilt. I agree with that. But using Gilbert's logic, anything pre-1990 stunk, and those players couldn't play today. Even looking at Gilbert's GOAT, that being LeBron James, on an episode of The Shop, he is on record saying there are some guys in the NBA today who, quote, do not know how to play basketball. So far on YouTube, I've made about 300 plus videos, but this one by far was the most frustrating. Not because exposing Gilbert is hard, but because some fans actually buy the crap he's selling. And coming from a former player, it's pretty embarrassing having these takes and spewing this garbage. So with that being said, that is the end of the video. Once again, Jordan and LeBron are both all-time great players, and the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s were all great eras for their respective time. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.